Hey, what's up, my dude? Your friendly neighborhood Tony here, and today is a very special video. For those of you that have been hanging around the channel for the past few months, you know that I am going through my entire Blu-ray collection, letter by letter, doing little videos just like this one where I tell you the movies that I have in my collection. So, I've already done a video for all the numericals, movies that start with numbers, for the letter A, and for the letter B. And so, of course, today we are going to start with movies that start with the letter C. So I'm going through my collection, I'm curating it, I'm basically just getting it down to the movies that mean something to me or are movies that I plan on watching time and time again over the years. So don't expect this video to be just a collection of every movie you can think of that starts with the letter C, but rather the movies that, well, that I like. That being said, I do also want to mention there are going to be a few movies in this pile that are not my movies. They're actually my girlfriend's movies. So when we get to those, I'll let you know. I probably haven't seen most of them, but if I had, I'll let you know. And if I haven't, maybe you can tell me if you've seen them and if you think they're good. So if that kind of thing sounds good to you and you want to see more collection updates, movie reviews, ranking videos, trailer reactions, all that good stuff, make sure you subscribe. All right, without further ado, let's get started with number one, and that is The Cabin in the Woods. So The Cabin in the Woods was written and directed by Joss Whedon, and it's kind of a play on multiple different horror movie genres, right? So you have Chris Hemsworth in here before he became Thor. I think this was, honestly, I think the movie he filmed right before becoming Thor, and it's him and a group of friends that go out to a, you guessed it, cabin in the woods, and there some weird horror type things start happening, and it gets a little more meta than you might expect. I don't want to spoil the movie for you, but it is very good. A very interesting take on, I don't even want to say zombie movies. It's more than just zombies, and I'll leave it there. I don't want to spoil anything. It's very, very good. It's very funny. It's very unique, and it also kind of opens up a universe where they could do multiple of these movies going forward, or they can do prequels if they wanted to. There's a lot of things they could do with this world that they've built. I don't know if they're going to. This movie came out, oh my gosh, like 13 years ago? When did this movie come out? No, I think it was 10 years ago. Either way, a long time ago, and they haven't done any sequels or prequels or anything like that. So chances are we're not going to get anything else with this, but definitely recommend you check this out. Okay, next up on the list is a movie that, as I previously mentioned, is one of my girlfriends. I have not seen it, and I've heard it's good. It stars her favorite actor, which is Heath Ledger, and that is a movie called Candy. So I haven't seen this movie. In all fairness, I don't think she's seen this movie either. I think this is one that she's been saving for a special occasion, but let me know if you've seen Candy with Heath Ledger. Don't know really anything about it other than that it stars him. If you've seen it, let me know, and if it's good, let me know that as well. All right, next up we have a bit of a trilogy here, and that is all three of the Captain America movies. So we have Captain America, the First Avenger, which honestly, I feel like a lot of people crap on this movie and they say it's kind of like a lower tier Marvel movie. I really enjoyed it. It is different than the other two Captain America movies, for sure. It's a lot more lighthearted. You're introducing kind of a gimmicky, weird character, but the way that they do it is in a manner that kind of makes him feel real, right? You kind of understand why he wears this ridiculous red, white, and blue outfit, and you kind of understand why at the time that his character was created, it was important, and what it meant for America at that time, and especially during World War II. So I like how they tie in that kind of authenticity into this ridiculous of a character, and they do it in such a manner that going forward, you believe that he is real, that he is a person that could exist. So I really enjoyed Captain America, the First Avenger. I think it's a really good origin story, one of the better origin stories in the Marvel universe. And yeah, not as B tier as I feel like people make it seem. Now, that being said, certainly, without a doubt, the better Captain America movie is The Winter Soldier. This movie is fantastic. This takes everything that they've built in that first Captain America movie with making you believe in the authenticity of the character, as well as in his relationship specifically with Bucky here. And it takes that to an entirely different level. It incorporates a lot of the kind of energy and style of something like a 70s spy thriller, and takes that and puts it into this weird, fantasy adventure comic book world. And I think they do a great job with that. It's something that we hadn't really seen up until that point, but now we get a lot more of it, right? We get these comic book movies that are also horror movies. You get a comic book movie that is also a love story or a family tale or I don't know, an Ocean's 11 style robbery movie. Like, so they really took the comic book genre and expanded it to include so much more. And I feel like that really started with this movie. So Captain America Winter Soldier, one of my favorite Marvel movies, period. And certainly I think the best Captain America movie. Then, of course, we have a movie that I don't know if you can actually call this a Captain America movie. It's Captain America Civil War. And this is really more of an Avengers movie, right? It involves pretty much the entire Avengers cast, except for a couple characters. And even on the cover, you have Captain America and Iron Man. So if nothing else, if you're not going to call it Avengers Civil War, you should probably at least call it Captain America and Iron Man Civil War. So I don't know if this really should be classified as a Captain America movie, although he is certainly one of the main leads in the movie, and it is fantastic. There's so many new characters that are introduced, right? Of course, you have Winter Soldier, who's already introduced in the other movie, but you get a lot more of him here. You get Black Panther's introduction, who is awesome, so badass in this movie. You have Spider-Man introduced into the MCU for the first time, where Sony is working alongside Marvel and Disney in order to bring their characters together. Amazing. So this is a monumental movie with a killer cast of characters and actors and actresses, of course. And I mean, this is, again, taking it to another level. Just like Winter Soldier took the genre of comic book movies to a new level, this yet again expanded upon that in a way that is remarkable. So Captain America, even though I think it should be called Avengers Civil War, another great Marvel movie. All right, next up we have another Heath Ledger movie, oddly enough, and this is one that I haven't seen, but it's called Casanova. I remember this being pretty popular. Again, if you've seen this, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Is this one that you enjoyed? I like most of Heath Ledger's work. I think he was a very good actor and, of course, tragically gone too soon. But this one I have not seen. Honestly, it doesn't really look like it's my kind of movie, but who knows? If it's good, it's good. So Casanova is there in the pile. Then we have a couple of Hayao Miyazaki movies. So the first one here is Castle in the Sky, which it's a pretty good movie. This is not one of my favorite Ghibli movies. It's, if I'm being honest, it's kind of lower tier for me. It's still good, don't get me wrong. It's just not on the level of, some of the more well-known and popular Ghibli movies that we've gotten. This one, though, is still pretty good. It actually has a wild dub cast. Now, I know people hate dubs. I like some English dubs. Some are terrible. But this one, you have Mark Hamill playing, I believe he's the villain in this, if I remember correctly. So you have him. You also have James Vanderbeek from Dawson's Creek is the main male character in here. And then the main female character is Anna Paquin, which, of course, she's been in a ton of stuff. She was in True Blood. She was in X-Men. She played Rogue. I think this is when she was very young, though. So this was before, any of her known success that we've seen. But a very interesting cast. I still prefer the Japanese dub of it, but overall, a pretty good movie. It's got some cool art and some interesting, they do a lot of like these flying machines and these like robots that are really, the concepts are fun and unique. So this is, again, not one of my favorite Ghibli movies, but still a pretty good one, Castle in the Sky. Now, one of my favorite Hayao Miyazaki movies, this is not a Ghibli movie, but I think it was like one of the first movies that Hayao Miyazaki himself directed. That is Lupin III, Castle of Cagliostro. Of course, I put this under the C's for the Castle of Cagliostro because that is like the main title, but it's a Lupin III movie. If you are not familiar with Lupin III, I remember basically first finding out about him from, I think it was Adult Swim on Cartoon Network way back in the day, and he had a show that was on there, and he is basically kind of like a James Bond type, kind of chauvinistic, if I'm being honest, but in a manner that is just, it paints him to be an idiot, in a lot of ways. Although his character is pretty brilliant when it comes to, doing his little antics and everything, whether it's stealing jewels or what have you. But as far as like socially, he's an idiot. But it's a fun movie. The animation, The fluidity of it, some of the over-the-top action sequences in this are incredible, especially for the time that this came out. I think this came out in like the late 80s, I want to say, or maybe the early 90s. No, here we go. Check this out. Is this right? It's 1979. Wow. Okay, so even older than I thought, but the animation is incredible. Of course, it's all hand-drawn animation, which nowadays most things are CG, or at least have elements of CG implemented into them. This is classic animation. And it looks amazing. So Lupin III, The Castle of Cagliostro, Hayao Miyazaki joint that not a lot of people know about. Definitely recommend you check that out. All right, next up is a movie starring Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hanks. It's called Catch Me If You Can. Now, this is based on a true story of Frank Abagnale Jr., I think was his name, and he was a con artist that was very young when he started pulling off these schemes. He pretended to be a pilot. He was writing a lot of like phony checks and making a lot of money doing that. And this, of course, took place, a long time ago before the internet age where you could actually get away with things like this. And his story is wild. And Tom Hanks plays an FBI agent who's basically trying to hunt him down. It's a really fun story where, yes, Leo is the bad guy, but he's really not that bad. Like, he's not hurting people, and so you kind of end up rooting for him. A very fun movie. Catch Me If You Can. Next up, another Ghibli movie. This is The Cat Returns. This is a fun, kind of lighthearted story about a girl who gets kind of swept up into this fantasy world, and the characters are just so lovable and unique. It's not, a lot of Ghibli movies have really heavy themes, right? A lot of their themes are, man versus nature. It has a lot to do with the environment and things like that. This is just a much more simple story of a girl going on a fantasy adventure and getting kind of swept up in this. She gets into trouble and then has to figure her way out of it. So it's a fun movie. I really like the characters in it. That's what drew me to it. And yeah, it's just a good time. So The Cat Returns, a good Ghibli movie for you to check out. All right, next up is, okay, I have not seen this movie. This is one of my girlfriends, and it's, I'm just going to show it to you. It is called Catch That Kid. This is basically a Spy Kids, Agent Cody Banks kind of ripoff movie that stars none other than a very young Twilight girl, Kristen Stewart, who of course has done much more than Twilight, but this is her when she was pretty young, and no idea if this movie is any good. In fact, I'm almost sure it's not good. The odds of it being good are slim, and I don't know why it's in the collection, but it's here. So, hey, have you seen this? Is this a movie that you grew up with? I didn't, but maybe you did. So there you go. Next up is actually another one of my girlfriend's movies. This one is a Zac Efron movie called Charlie St. Cloud. So I don't know if you've seen that. Again, I have not. I don't even know who else is in this movie besides Zac Efron, but I'm sure it's fine. I like Zac Efron. He's a cool guy. He seems like the kind of guy you would just hang out with, have a beer, watch a game, Seems nice enough. So there we go. Charlie St. Cloud. Then, okay, we're getting back into my movies now. This is probably my favorite, and definitely one of my favorites. Might be my favorite Kevin Smith movie, and that is Chasing Amy. I think this is probably his best movie that he's done, to be honest. As far as the writing in it, the characters, the acting, it is really, really good. It's got Ben Affleck in there. Of course, Jay and Silent Bob are in the movie, and it's just a really unique love story, but a love story that involves characters and different types of love. It's not necessarily entirely romantic love. It's kind of complicated to explain. I don't want to just give you like the tagline of it because I feel like doesn't do it justice, but a very good movie. If you're into Kevin Smith's movies, one of the things I like about him the most is that he writes characters that are believable, and the crux of his movies, it revolves around actual human communication, right? He doesn't have a lot of spectacle in his movies at all. In fact, most of them are just people sitting in a room talking, and I think he does that very, very well, especially in Chasing Amy. So there we go. Probably my favorite Kevin Smith movie. And we will have a few more Kevin Smith movies in this pile. Next up is Chicago, which was a recommendation of my girlfriend's. And so I watched this not that long ago, and damn, this movie's good. This is a really good movie. It's got Catherine Zeta-Jones, Renee Zellweger, Richard Gere is in it. And it is a musical that takes place in Chicago, and it involves a murder. And, I don't want to say too much more than that, but it's It is really great. Renee Zellweger is fantastic in this movie. This is honestly probably her best performance, or one of her best performances in my opinion. So if you're into kind of musical, I don't know what the decade that this took place in, but it was like around, maybe was it like the 20s or 30s or something? I don't know. But either way, if you're into that kind of thing, definitely check that one out. Okay, here we go. I think we're about halfway through here. Next up on the list is a movie called Children of Men, a very dark and depressing post-apocalyptic movie with Clive Owen in it. Also, Michael Caine is in the movie, Julianne Moore. It involves a world where basically people can't have children anymore. And then there's a lady who is pregnant, and Clive Owen is trying to get her to safety, essentially. So a very good movie. I think it's based on a book, if I remember correctly. But either way, very good. Check that one out. Now we have a few more Kevin Smith movies. Here we have the entire Clerks trilogy. Clerks 1, Clerks 2, Clerks 3. I think my favorite is still going to be the first Clerks movie. This is a movie that I didn't watch for a very long time because I was a young man and I saw that it was in black and white and I was like, ew, I don't want to watch a black and white movie, I said as a dumb teenager. And after finally watching this is an amazing movie, an amazing just exploration into the quiet desperation of the lives of a couple of early 20s guys living in the 1990s, right? So that's what this movie is essentially about. People working at a convenience store and trying to figure out their lives at that time. Then, of course, you have Clerks 2, which follows up with them probably around 10 or so years later. They're in their 30s and they're working at a fast food joint. This one is also a good movie. I don't think I like it as much as the first one, although it still has certainly some highlights in it for sure. And then once you kind of get invested with these characters, you want to see where they go from there. So certainly worth watching. I think one that really blew me away, though, is Clerks 3. I did not expect Clerks 3 to be as good as it was. It certainly has a lot of Kevin Smith just getting his friends around to, tell a story. So with that, you get some cameos that maybe, the joy of the cameo is that, oh, wow, they actually got this actor and not so much this person fits into this role and should be in this movie and is moving the plot along. But it's really just kind of like a quick nod and a wink to, oh, hey, look, this guy's in that movie, But the story itself really kind of wraps up the trilogy and kind of brings these guys' lives, these two characters, Randall and Dante, and kind of fully completes the circle of where they started and where they end up. So it's really worth watching. Very, very good. And I don't want to say anything to spoil what happens in the movie, but I got choked up for sure. So Clerks 3. Next up is a movie that I need to get rid of because I'm never going to watch this again. And that is A Clockwork Orange. This movie is messed up, man. It's not really my style. I love Stanley Kubrick. I like 2001: A Space Odyssey. That's probably my favorite movie of his. And I'm just not a big fan of like really movies that make you feel icky, I guess is a way to describe it. And this will certainly make you feel icky a lot. So Clockwork Orange, maybe I'll give it away at some point. Then we have Cloud Atlas. Cloud Atlas is by the Wachowskis, and it is a movie that a lot of people hate, or not hate, but don't like as much as maybe I do. I think for me, what I get out of this movie is just the visual spectacle. I think it looks stunning and it's really fun to watch just for that. And it's unique and interesting, but I can certainly see there's a lot of flaws with the movie itself. But yeah, Cloud Atlas, I liked it. If you're just looking for a visual spectacle, check this one out. All right, then we have Cloverfield, which is a fun monster movie, kind of like point of view. What do they call that? Found footage movie. And this one's really fun. I also like the Cloverfield Lane. What is it? 12 Cloverfield Lane movie. That is kind of a prequel, sequel, equal. It's like takes place around the same time as all of this is happening in Cloverfield. So this is a fun movie. I haven't seen the third movie, I think, in the series, which is the Cloverfield Paradox, I believe. I still haven't seen that one. So I'll have to check that out and maybe add it to the collection if it's as good as this one. All right. Then we have a Disney movie called Coco, which is amazing. An absolutely stunning movie. It looks so gorgeous in 4K on my giant OLED TV. It looks incredible. the story, the characters, the family, the emotion that's involved, the music is fantastic. This is a great movie for the whole family, really. I know it's aimed at kids because it's, a Disney movie and it's animated, but the entire family will enjoy this, and it really speaks to the entire family and what it is to be a family. So Coco on the list. Now this is a movie that I recommend to everyone. This is Collateral, starring Tom Cruise and Jamie Foxx. This is, in my opinion, probably Tom Cruise's best performance. He plays a bad guy. He's a hitman, essentially, and Jamie Foxx is a cab driver who ends up picking him up as he's going on his runs for the night to kill a bunch of people, and it just gets wild from there. This movie is amazing. I love this, and if you want to see Tom Cruise in a new light, check out Collateral. He hasn't done anything like this before or since, and I wish he would because he's so good at it. Then we have Con Air, which is kind of a guilty pleasure of mine. I love this movie. It's so dumb and over the top, and it's just great though. It's Nicolas Cage. He is basically on a flight. He's a prisoner and he's on a flight. I think he's being released, but he's on a flight with a bunch of like murderers, and the plane gets taken over, and it's just a whole ordeal, and it's got some great one-liners in here, and it's just a fun over the top movie directed by Jerry Bruckheimer, I think. Is that right? Or no, he produced it. Who directed this? Simon West. I'm not familiar with Simon West, but either way, produced by Jerry Bruckheimer. He's amazing. He's produced so many incredible movies. I'm not saying this is an incredible movie, but it is a fun one, especially if you grew up in the 90s and saw it on TV a lot. Another movie you might have seen on TV in the 90s is this one, which again, not a very good movie, but one that I love. It has a special place in my heart, and that is Congo. This movie is ridiculous. It's essentially they find a group of apes that are kind of evil and just murder people, and there's like diamonds, and so they're trying to find these diamonds, and they run into these apes, and just chaos ensues. Then you have an ape who can communicate through sign language, and she has like a machine that vocalizes her signs. So she'll sign like, my name is Amy, and then you'll hear a voice that says my name is Amy. And it's just a weird movie, but it is fun, and it is gory and over the top, and I really liked it. So Congo. Then we have a movie that I pray every day that this gets a sequel, and I know there's been a lot of talk about it, but I don't know if it's ever going to happen. That is Constantine with Keanu Reeves. This movie got crapped on so much, and people said it was a bad movie. This movie is so good. It's so good and so unique, and I think, honestly, probably just ahead of its time. I think that if this movie had come out today, it would have been massively successful. And so that's why I hope they do a sequel, because I think this is the kind of movie that people enjoy now that maybe at the time they just didn't really get. And Keanu Reeves is fantastic as Constantine. I know he's not, if you're familiar with Constantine in the comics, he's not really, that. He doesn't match that kind of character at all. But I think he does exceptionally well in this, and I highly, highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. Then we've got two more movies. We're almost done here. Next up is Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon on 4K. This movie is stunning. I'm a big Kung Fu movie fan. I've watched them since I was a kid. I remember me and my buddy would go on Fridays after school to Blockbuster and just rent Kung Fu movies and anime movies. And so Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon definitely hits me in a special place. And on 4K, gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. So you've also got Michelle Yeoh in here. This is kind of like one of the movies that really put her on the map. So she's obviously been very successful since then. And this is one of her big breaks. So Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Then finally ending the list here, which is great because my voice is about to go, but we've got Brandon Lee in The Crow. This movie, I rewatched this again recently. This movie is so freaking good, and more than you would have expected from it, right? So you have Brandon Lee, who at the time hadn't really done much at all. He'd been in a couple little movies, but he was just kind of getting his feet under him as an actor, and unfortunately he passed away in the making of this movie, and which is really unfortunate because I feel like he could have done so much more than just this. But what a way to go out, though. You're really going out on top with an incredible movie that is, again, kind of like Constantine, ahead of its time. Had this movie come out today, it would have been massively successful because of the style and the method of storytelling and the type of character that we're seeing here now, especially since we've seen so many superhero movies and so many people in tights fighting crime and saving the day in bright colors, and then you get something like this. Amazing. So The Crow, absolutely love this movie. I wish we could have seen more from Brandon Lee. It's really unfortunate that it ended here, but this will always be one of my favorite movies. And that is it. Oh my gosh. I'm going to have to make these videos quicker in the future because this is not really that many movies when you think about it. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Let me know your thoughts on the movies on my list. What did I miss? I know there's a ton of movies that I probably still need to add to this pile. So let me know if there are any movies that start with the letter C that you recommend. And of course, if you want to see more videos like this, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Also, real quick, I'll say, if you want to support me and the channel so I can buy more movies like this, I've got an Amazon affiliate link at the very beginning of my description box below. If you click on that, if you plan on buying anything on Amazon today, click that link first. It gives me a little bit of a kickback. Doesn't cost you anything. So if you do, I appreciate it. If not, no big deal. I'll catch you in the next one. Be good.